song, and I've never ever, that's a part of her life that I didn't know. So today when we were practicing, she's like, oh, I don't want to be on the mic. And then I said, no, you need to be on the mic because of the people who are, at home listening and watching. And so I can't wait for you to hear her. All right, so thank you all again for being here. And LaTanya, Janine, and I will open up with a song. Is the QR code back there? Please grab it. It's a pretty easy song to follow, but if you would, the words are there. Thank you.
We'll see if you're still applauding afterwards. So it's great to be here, and I'll tell you a little bit more about myself later. I do ask for grace. We're in a holy space, so we will ask for grace. As I was sharing with Janine, I grew up in the Baptist church, and in the Baptist church, everybody can sing. So as a young person, I had the belief that I could sing. This song that we're going to sing today is incredibly meaningful for me. It was one that I learned early on as a young child, and it would often be one of the opening hymns at our church, and it's called May the Work I've Done. Ready? May the work I've done speak for me. May the work I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave and there's nothing that can be said, may the work I've done speak for me. May the life I live, may the life I live speak for me. May the life I live speak for me. When the best I've tried to live, my mistakes He will forgive. May the life I live speak for me. May the service I give speak for me. May the service I give speak for me. When I've done the best I can and my friends don't understand, may the service I give speak for me. May the work I've done speak for me. May this work I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave and there's nothing that can be said, may the work I've done speak for me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was just going to walk over here. I love Sandra because Sandra is all about making sure you can see the whole show. And I'm sorry, that's right. Forgive me. See, Sandra's managing the show.
A reading from the book of James. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If any one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it's not accompanied by action, is dead.
Thank you. So, as I was saying, Sandra always likes to make sure things are right. I do too, but normally I'm the back of the house person and not the front of the house person. And I agreed to do this, I think it was back in August, forgot it. And it was not on my calendar. And then, what was it? I think Monday, I get this text. She and I are texting about how the world is evil and we need to figure out a way to save it. And she's like, "I can't wait to see you on Wednesday." I was like, "Wednesday? What is Wednesday?" And I started looking at my calendar. So then I scroll back through my text. Oh, I committed to this. So I'm thrilled to be here. She is a dear friend, and she is one of those people who helps me stay challenged to make sure that I'm walking on the path. I chose both that song selection and that reading because I wanted to talk about a life of purpose. And what are we each called to do to fulfill our life of purpose? Now, as I described, Sandra makes sure that everything looks seamless and it's beautiful, and she's reaffirming, and she's this amazing friend who lifts you up. That's how she fulfills her life of purpose. I like to do that from behind the curtains and make sure that the piano shows up and that the lights are on and the heat is on. That's how I fulfill my purpose. But we're in really complicated times right now. And I don't know that it's enough to stay behind the curtain anymore. I don't know that it's okay to just send up silent wishes and prayers, hopes, and think about what used to be. And I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what is my role in making sure that we all do, in fact, are living a life of purpose and that I'm doing my part. And what does that look like? And it's a struggle because I've certainly begun to reach the point in my life where I want to put it all down. I'm tired. I feel like I've been living the life of purpose for a really long time. To give you a little of my background, I am one of two daughters of an amazing woman who raised us by herself, originally from Florida, hence the weird accent. But I grew up in New Jersey, which is what really makes it weird. Yeah, I grew up in Trenton. I know, sorry. There's no T in the middle. And have spent the last 22 years in Newark. And I initially worked for the Episcopal Church. That was an experience that requires a different conversation. And then, I decided they could not be my primary bill payer. They needed to be supplemental bill payer because I couldn't work for them and go there every day, every Sunday. And started working for the Jackie Robinson Foundation, where I've been for the last 27 years. And thank you. And what I'm grateful about that experience is one of the things that I learned both in ROTC, I know it's a strange journey here, both in ROTC and working for the church is belief in the mission. And what I understood early on is I can't be in a place where I don't believe in the mission. And so it's hard to live a life of purpose if your life doesn't have a mission. And so for me, staying at the Jackie Robinson Foundation all those years, I believe deeply, passionately, spiritually about the work that we do there. And will do all that I can to make sure that we succeed. And I feel like that's what all of us need to be about. It can never just be about a paycheck. I don't care if you're the guy that's just sweeping the floor at the church. Your goal needs to be, this is a beautiful facility, and I want to make sure that when everybody comes in here, it is the sparkling best facility in the world. That's how much this means to me. But that's also what can be said about what we're experiencing. And I'm going to give you an example. I was telling Sandra about it earlier. This morning, I took the train over New Jersey Transit. I normally take the path in because I work downtown. I took New Jersey Transit in, and I promised Sandra that I would pick up some pastries. Well, of course, I was excited about not having to be here so early, so I slept in a little bit, and I get to the train station, all the trains were running late. I get to the train station, get to the bakery in New York, and this woman approaches me and says, "Can you give me $1? I want to get something to eat." If you live in New York, you've had this experience multiple times a day. And there's all kinds of school of thought on that. Do you give them money? Do you not give them money? Do you stand there and preach to them about how they need to get a job? Do you tell them about the services that are available? I didn't have time for any of that stuff. She was hungry. I needed to get out of this bakery. So I said, yes, tell them what you want. And I watched the woman behind the counter treat this person who, even though I was going to pay, as though she didn't matter. Now, why does it matter to you, the person behind the counter who is ringing up an order, who's buying this woman this food, why it is that she does? None of that should matter. This is another human being. She didn't ask for money to go buy crack, alcohol, whatever it is you believe about those decisions. She wanted food. So it was funny because, of course, of all the beautiful pastries on this counter, she wanted a cookie, a chocolate chip cookie. So the woman was kind of, the attendant was lagging behind. You know, I think she felt like, okay, I have to deal with this woman because she has this credit card, but she's got this woman with her. And so somehow my stature was seen as less than by association. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to use my stature today. I'm going to live a life of purpose, and I'm going to use my stature, and I'm going to give this woman just a little bit of dignity on this day. And so I stopped being kind, and I said, I want this woman to get service. She wants a cookie. She told you what kind of cookie she wants. Give her a cookie. Give her her own bag, because, of course, in New York City, God forbid you get your own bag. Give her her own bag. And the woman was clearly taken aback because I didn't ask for anything. I wasn't looking for her appreciation, her gratitude. I certainly wasn't looking for her to scrape and bow before me. And even though I bought her a cookie, I felt like this morning I gave her a fraction of dignity today. And it was such a simple thing. And I think about how so many of us in our daily lives go about chipping away at people's dignity. So now I'm going to talk about a little something that I do know a whole lot about, which is this issue around DE&I, because I can't just leave it out there. My job at the Jackie Robinson Foundation, I'm in charge of operations. And one of the things that we do is we help young people get through college. So we give them college scholarships. We provide them professional skills development. We provide direct mentoring. And in the 27 years that I've been at JRF, there is not a person that has gone through our program, and now hundreds, thousands have gone through the program while I've been there. Would I say got a job as a favor, or because they were unable to do the work? These are all kids who have worked so hard, have come from such challenging places, and have earned their seat at the table. And what is so frustrating to me in this moment is it's not even about giving us a seat anymore. You don't even want us in the room. We've never asked for special accommodations. We're asking for equality. We're asking for equal education. We're asking for equal access. You all know how this thing works. If you don't know somebody at somewhere, you don't get into that space. That's just the way it is here. I wouldn't be at Jackie Robinson Foundation today if it wasn't for the guy who was in charge of development coming to me and saying, I think this might be a good fit for you. So this idea that all of us don't use access to resources to get to places is offensive. And this idea that we get to those places because of the color of our skin, and somehow the service that we provide isn't equal to, and in fact is less than, is offensive. And we have a responsibility as a society, and it can't just people who look like me. We all have a responsibility as a society to say, that is not my experience. That is not the journey I have walked. And I believe that we are better when we have more people at the table than we are when we have less. You think about, take that song we just sang this morning. I love the Episcopal tradition. I really do. They're not singing that song in the Episcopal church. Certainly not the ones I've gone to. They're singing it in the gospel church, in the Baptist church, I'm sorry. And that doesn't make it wrong or less than or less worthy in experience, and yet it has shaped who I am. That song says as much to me as the collect of the day. And that doesn't mean that I'm not able to be a good Christian and go forward and make a difference in the world. I can bring all these things to the table, and it can inform my worship experience and make me a better person, which then in fact makes me better when I go to work, because I come to work with those values that get instilled in me by the church or the mosque or the temple. And I bring the set of values of my faith and of others, appreciating my fellow man, dignity, basic dignity, and I'm better able to do my job. And so when we talk about life of purpose, it's more often about those little steps than it is about the big stuff. For me, it's about the cookie exchange this morning. It's about introducing you to a hymn. Did anybody know that hymn? Oh, okay, good. I didn't wait for it for so long. But it's about introducing people to there's other ways of doing it that might feel a little different, but it works. You were no less moved. I don't believe I somehow infringed upon your rights. And you were no less changed by the experience. Just like for me, when I went to the Episcopal Church, it was a different experience, and yet I shared that one of the things that was powerful to me was the ability to hear lessons in a quiet way. And that's what spoke to me. That doesn't make it a bad experience or a better experience. It just makes it what I needed to do, which is, in my view, what diversity, equity, and inclusion really is about. It's about making space for other people to bring their experiences to the table and offer up those experiences to your company, your church, your community center, and making it a better space. I would like to very much open this up. I love to just hear back from people and hear your thoughts on some of these things of living with a life of purpose. And I'm happy. Somebody want to come up? Come on now.
I'm really nervous.
Don't be nervous. Child, I sang a song. She told me I sang on the Penn Station platform.
I thought back to a moment that we had actually earlier when we first got here. Sorry, my throat. Where at one point during so we just met this morning for the campus tour, and we were talking, and at one point you were just like, there's another version of this morning where we didn't even talk to each other. And what we were talking about was just like, why were we here? Like, why this space? What's different? And I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just like this immediate, like, belief in a similar mission, I guess, where it was kind of just, I don't even remember who said something first, but it was like all of a sudden we were just like in this conversation. I was like, whoa, like, we're both in the right place. And it was, I don't know, that's what came to mind for me, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you. It just reminds me of the power of community, what you were sharing. We are all human beings, so you see someone, and at one time in their life, they were a child, just like you were a child. So I'm from New York, and it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. You have your commute, you're kind of checked out a bit. If anybody can relate, you have to get to class, get to work, get to the next stop. And what I've been trying to do lately is just be a little bit more mindful of those who may be unhoused, or someone who may have a disability or a challenge, and then recognizing the humanity in them. So I love what you shared. The other day I helped an elderly lady. She had a few bags, and just instead of, I walk fast, but instead of walking so quickly, I just said, do you need a hand? And she did. And it's just so important to remember that human connection. Thanks.
Thank you. I mean, first and foremost, shout out to Jersey. I just want to recognize Jersey's in the building. North to be specific. No disrespect to Trenton, we love. Central Jersey's a real thing. It is. Oh, okay. All right. Debatable. Oh, you see where you've been for the past 20 years. So, I mean, anyway, I digress. But I'm thinking about purpose within the context of DEI. And I think of my mom, right, who would notice things about me, talents, gifts, before I even noticed them. And it would be years later before I realized, dang, my mother she saw this, the foresight of a mother, right, the foresight of a parent. And what's interesting about the attack against DEI and most things around civic or civil, social justice, what have you, is they actually see the threat very clearly. The threat of equity, the threat of Black folks, brown folks, queer folks, immigrant folks, differently able folks, immigrant, what have you, having a seat at the table. They actually see that, and they've seen it for a while, how threatening it is to the status quo. And not saying that we haven't seen it, but I think they understand that when folks really do have a seat at the table itself has to actually change. The levers of power actually have to shift. And when you look at power as a zero-sum game, which they do, then it's scary. We know that the KKK was formed after the abolition of slavery because they were threatened by the formerly enslaved being able to vote, being able to be free, being able to own, right, without the shackles of slavery. And so it's interesting how these efforts of violence are often an affirmation of the power of the people whose power, existence, and humanity they're actively trying to suppress.
Can't follow that ever. Can never follow you. It's fine. No, what you said earlier about just our commitment to just commitment. The word that came to mind was devotion, and that connection to things and to each other. And I, as somebody who just formally worked with so many young people, there's a thing that they're saying right now generally about they have a desire to be real lovers and real yearners, and it's this cute thing. But I think when you said that, I was just thinking about how what you're describing is the exact medicine for this moment, but how scary that commitment feels. Sometimes to us, but I think not always to young people, but definitely for us more as adults, right? I would say, just that reality that what it means to be in that constant state of being a lover or being a yearner is that like connection, that desire, that like vigor for life, that thirst to like just experience it in all of its fullness. And how much more beautiful and how much more just magnetic like we would all feel, and everyone would be able to live into themselves as if we had the courage, I'd imagine, to be in those moments and to say like, maybe other people don't understand why making sure that the floor is perfect and making sure that the walls are, pristine. I think all the time of folks who work in hospitals but don't do what people perceive as immediate work with folks in there, like the care, but how much care goes into making sure that your environment is safe and that people are friendly. And they take that so seriously as other people who work in that environment. And I think just like it can be sometimes embarrassing to be a real lover, like to love everyone and to love what you do, even when everything in society and other people are devaluing that, right? Like when you're in a space and easily another person would have felt embarrassed to put themselves in a position to say like, no, this person is completely deserving of their dignity. And it's actually kind of embarrassing that you don't think that, right? But I think so often like we get caught in our own fear of like, well, what will it look like if people find out that I don't have these insane capitalistic aspirations that like make me want to be on top of everybody else, and that like zero-sum power game? Like how much could change if we just even shifted our understanding of what it meant to be like courageous? And that is courage. It takes courage to do what people perceive as the small menial things that don't matter. Like it takes courage to love doing that and to love everyone so much that you do that well. And I just think, yeah, it's just beautiful. I love hearing about devotion. It reminded me of like in yoga, that energy of similarly like devotion through acts, that faith through acts. Faith is dead without works. So thank you.
I just wanted to say around the issue of devotion, I think one of the things that always, it is something that really speaks to me. And when you were talking, I was just thinking about the difference that makes. When you talked about kids, because my nephews are now 26, so I'm not sure. I'm only hip enough to talk to them about football, and that's it. So this idea of living into love is hard, right? So the idea that it's always gonna be easy and simple is not how it is. I adore my sister. We get into our argument once a week and don't speak to each other for a couple hours, but you know what? When the chips are down, she's my ride or die. I'm committed to her, she's committed to me. That's love. That is living into our connection with each other. And imagine a world in which we felt that about other people unconditionally, where it doesn't matter if you look like me, eat beans and rice like me, or sing the songs that I do, or sleep with the people that I do. Imagine if we lived that way. When you made your comment about the elderly woman, the thing that I thought about, I quickly went back to this morning. I promise you that lady who got the cookie has given me not another thought, and yet it brightened my day. It will stay with me, just like it has for you. So just think about just doing a good act or a decent act, because it's not about good or bad. It's about doing a decent act and its impact on you. It's not about what you get out of it from that person. It's about how it feeds my soul. Self-love. And so when we talk about devotion and we talk about a life of purpose, it always comes back to, at the end of the day, did I live a life worth living? What will they say at my funeral or at my memorial service that I would be proud about? Do I feel like, because I am not one of those who feels like you need to have the 4-page obituary. I'm fine with she was a good person. She cared. That's enough for me. And so that is what I try to live into in my everyday. I'm not always the nicest person. I'm not always the most patient person. But ultimately, am I trying to be fair? Am I trying to be decent? Am I trying to make a difference to make life just a little less hard for a person? That's what I think we all should live into daily. I don't want to go over your time. I want to respect your time. So thank you, everybody.
Tomorrow we have something special play, so please join us at 12 again. And bring your creativity, your creative spirit. I won't say more because I want it to be a surprise. So, but yeah, 12 p.m. tomorrow.